Hey, welcome back Behind the Label. Last time we finished up with the last episode, we were talking about how the facility we're setting in now had originally been purchased after Prohibition, after it became dilapidated. Was purchased by Jim Beam, who then shut down the actual distillery portion, but kept the rick houses for storage.
1985. I was in high school. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and since that time, it basically sat in ruins from 1985 until 2013, when a guy named David Meyer decided to take a risk and follow his dream.
It's a risk.
It is a risk.
It's a huge place.
Yeah. So
huge place.
If you get a chance to visit here at Glens Creek Distillery, you will meet David. He does the tours. He kind of does there. It's the
him and John Kemper.
They're definitely hands-on. They're making the whiskey. They're doing the tours. They're doing the whole thing. But they make some good stuff.
This is OCD number 5.
Yeah. So that's what we're getting ready to taste right now. This is their product right there, OCD number 5. Tell us the story behind OCD. What's the significance of the number 5?
Well, it was the fermenter. They were able to pull some yeast strains from.
Yeah.
So they were actually able to gather some yeast from the old Pro distillery.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of David's.
He's a big science guy. Yeah, they talk for hours about science.
Yeah, so
they were able to do that. And
when they first started out, they basically wanted to use the original yeast if possible. So they kind of set some basically buckets of sugar water and around different places, and then the fermenter tank number 5, it started growing, and that's what they've been using. So this is. Who knows really how old this strain of yeast that makes this really is? Who knows? Yeah.
So this stuff is, okay, we had 80 proof here, 80 proof here. This here, look at the side of it.
Yeah, it's a little hot.
116 proof.
116 proof.
And it warms you up fast.
Yeah.
It's 116 proof. It's a little over 2 years old. 87% corn, 8% rye, and 5% malted barley.
Yeah, so a little higher on the corn.
A lot higher on the corn content. Yeah. And it ranges, you can buy it anywhere from 55 to 60 bucks here or at your local liquor store. It's pretty cool though.
Yeah, so we'll give it a try. Definitely like I know when we were here before, that smell is really, if you're a big bourbon smell person, this is definitely one of the nice ones. Really nice.
So we'll hopefully get to talk to the guys after our last episode.
That's our plan. So maybe not while you're watching this episode, but it will probably be on another one after that.
A few ones later.
We hope to have them interviewed back here in their place. They're actually out. The guys are actually on the other side of this wall that we're filming in.
They're talking. They're selling their stuff.
Selling their stuff, making whiskey, doing the whole thing back there. So yeah, it's very good.
Good stuff. So the next in our story about Colonel Taylor is a place that a lot of you, if you like bourbon, you've probably been here. I'm sure most of you have been here. If you've come to Kentucky, this is probably the most popular stop. It's not on the Bourbon Trail, but it's the most popular stop for any bourbon aficionado. I know last year they had, I think, 290,000 visitors.
Yeah, it was. I know when we had our studio down there in Frankfurt, they were saying something about it was going to be up to 1.3 million visitors estimated, or at least coming in
for the Bourbon Trail
to bring it into town.
Yeah, there's more visitors come for this distillery than any of the others.
It's odd enough. Like you said, they're not even on the Bourbon Trail. I suspect because they're so big, they really don't have to be to do it. So
So how did this get here? How did this come to be though? So if you go to their, do their tour, and they have multiple tours, each one is great. They'll talk about their history. So we're actually sitting in Leestown, or not sitting in Leestown. Buffalo Trace is sitting in Leestown. It was actually founded in 1775 by 2 Lee brothers in Cotton Mills Lee. So they founded it, 1775. By the 1786, you'll hear from all the tour guides about Buffalo Trace. There was distilling on this property.
Yeah, and they even make I think 1776 brand, right? Isn't that?
No, it's James Pepper.
That's right. Yeah.
Our next one.
I'm getting this confused.
Yeah. So they 1786 they start producing. Actually, I think they were probably producing it before then, but I guess the records that they're looking at, they can verify that 1786. And they talk about how it's the oldest continuous distillery in the United States.
I read something about that. I know the Burke Distillery that makes Maker's Mark. Also, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, the Burke Distillery is the oldest.
Well, that was early 1800s when it was established. But if you go Buffalo Trace, they're going to say 1786 continuous.
Yeah, right.
And so, it's funny. There's a house there now that was built by Commodore Richard Taylor. He was Colonel Taylor's great-grandfather.
Yeah, they're all tied in.
And yeah, they're all tied in. I mean,
Now, is that the house that's up on the hill, the distiller's house?
no, it's actually the White House over by the
Oh, you
distillery.
know, across the road, yeah.
It's it's on the property
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace. When you take the tour, if you go over to the distillery side, or if you go to Bourbon Pompeii or something, you pass it. It's right there. His grandfather built the house. The oldest house supposed to be in Franklin County.
Yeah.
He came along. He built a 3-story warehouse. So why would anybody want a warehouse in Frankfurt, there by the river?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
I think because of the Kentucky River, that's always my go-to answer.
The distillery sits on a bend, and it's called Buffalo Trace now because back in the day that's where the buffalo made their
Yeah,
crossings.
there's actually, a trace is basically a naturally made road, most of the time by animals. And I think it actually goes all the way to the salt, or Blue Lakes.
It's odd if you watch the migration, it comes south, and then it turns and goes back.
Oh,
It's almost like a fish hook. Because big bone leg,
Yeah.
all that is in that. And it
Yeah.
comes down through here, and it goes back. It's almost like a fish hook.
So that's still part of the same path though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they cross the river there because there's a bend there by the distillery. So at the bend, the water slows down.
Right.
So, and then if people are bringing stuff up the river and they stop there, they may want to use your warehouse to store some
There you
stuff.
go.
So, there was a warehouse there. So it wasn't actually until like 1857, when Jacob Swigert come in, bought the area, and built a distillery there. Had the warehouse and built the distillery. But, like I said, they've been distilling there the whole time. A lot of people know Blanton. You know that name?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Albert B. Blanton.
And if you don't, the bottles are the most recognizable.
They are.
And as a matter of fact, they're collectible. The tops.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
I've seen them on like an eBay and things. People
Yes.
like sell the tops.
They're hard to find.
But each one is hand bottled.
Mhm.
That's a really cool part of the tour. If
Yeah,
you get a chance
yeah.
to go to Buffalo Trace and go to
Mhm.
Blanton's, it's one building. It's a pretty small building. All the Blanton in the world is made from that one building. It's hand bottled.
Yeah.
Each person, it's amazing.
10 or 12 people there, just
Yeah.
doing one part of the
Yeah,
process.
and it's really
great.
neat. Like I said, I like to travel a lot, and that's one of my kind of hobbies, to take photos of, if you go places, take photos basically of bourbon, to know that someone put up that stopper on there and now it's in Iceland or Scotland or something.
Yes.
And it's just sitting there and you think, oh wow, I've literally been in that building.
Yeah, so everybody knows that name,
Yeah.
but it was Albert Bacon Blanton was his name that it was named after. But his great-grandfather, Harrison, was producing and distilling on that site as early as the early 1800s. So you have like these great-grandfathers, and then there's great-grandsons coming in to work at the distillery. So, Jacob Swigert, he made these improvements, and he actually turned around and sold it, because I had in the paper and everything, and sold it the very next year. We talked about in the first episode how Colonel Taylor had to sell his distillery, Old Oscar Pepper Distillery, and he sold it to...
Which he kind of somewhat inherited, I wouldn't say inherited that, but he basically took over, as you said, operations there,
Yeah.
kind of acted as a father figure to
James Pepper.
to
Yeah.
James Pepper.
Yeah, so he actually ended up selling that distillery, but to two guys, Leopold LeBreau and James Graham. Well, the people that owned the distillery, when Colonel Taylor bought it, there was three partners, and one of them was James Graham. So you talk about the whiskey business and how it was just a wheel and deal.
It is.
You're buying from the people that you're selling them to the same people. So that was 1869. So that's his first distillery where he purchased it on his own. And
this is Colonel Taylor we're talking
Colonel
about.
Taylor, yeah.
So that was his standalone distillery.
It was his first
what
one.
is now the modern Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, it was called, like I said, he went to Europe and he got all these standards of, copper and steam heated warehouses. He brought all that back with him.
That was the first, I think that was the first climate controlled warehouse either in the United States or maybe in the world.
He initiated that. He wanted the best of the best there. So in 1869 he buys it and calls it Old Fire Copper because he wanted people to know that name Copper in there.
Right.
So it's OSC for short. Most people know about OSC. So he buys the distillery and he upgrades it and does all the stuff with the steam heated warehouses and all that. And, makes it top of the line. And within a few years, he built another distillery adjacent to it. called the Carlisle Distillery.
No, that's a new one on me.
Yeah, so the early 1870s. If you
It's on the same
If you go to
property as
Buffalo
Buffalo
Trace
Trace.
today, it's both distilleries together that make this. It was called Carlisle Distillery. So he runs them, and like I said, makes all these improvements, and of course he's borrowing money, spending money, and all this. And so we talked about how he sold Old Oscar Pepper when he ran into financial difficulty in 1878. Well, he had to sell OFC too. So the same year he sold
So
Old Oscar
what do you
Pepper.
think's causing, I mean, that's two major,
He just,
he just overextended
he
himself?
overextended himself, yeah.
Because he sounds like a pretty savvy businessman.
Yeah,
But I guess he just...
A lot of them did. Like I said, we talked previous episodes about TV Rippy. He was savvy too, but he...
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so he overextended himself and he had to sell it, and he sold it to George T. Stagg. Now, that was 1878. He actually stayed on and ran the plant.
Taylor did.
He did.
So Taylor stayed at the Stagg Distillery. Didn't know
Yeah,
that.
if there's some more pictures, you'll see like the offices. You see this building with Stagg on one side and Taylor on the other. And there couldn't have been a bigger divide between the two of them.
Why is that?
Stagg was more about production, lowering cost, and Taylor was all about making the best quality.
Yeah, that's the reason I was at, in the other episode, I asked you if it was, from his standpoint, more of a business thing or more of a passion thing. He sounds definitely more like on the passion end. I really want to make truly good whiskey. I want people to enjoy the whiskey. I want to use the best methods. So I can see where even that would run into, finding, if you're putting the best of the best material in there, it costs a lot of money.
So they butted heads. I mean, by 1884, he was out of there. But before that, right before that, he had bought another distillery. So, so he's already planning to move on.
So let me get this straight. So Taylor basically lost what is now the Buffalo Trace Distillery to George T. Stagg. But so that's two distilleries he lost, and then he ends up buying a third one.
Yep, he did. Yep, sure did.
This
He
guy was
actually bought
determined to make
it.
whiskey.
He actually bought the property before he left OFC. So, going on about Buffalo Trace. George T. Stagg ran it for quite a while.
Now, what was the brand, the major brand on Stagg? Was it
Well, there was
just called
OFC. OFC was the big name.
Stagg? So he kept the OFC.
He actually, the distillery stayed as OFC, but he changed it to Old Fashioned Copper to differentiate himself. And there's a lot of lawsuits about the name, using Colonel Taylor and Gish Taylor whenever Taylor left. So, there was a lot of animosity between the two of them. And so, Stagg, Taylor leaves, Stagg runs it. A young guy in the late 1890s joins the distillery by the name of Albert Bacon Bland. And he actually, right around when Prohibition started, he becomes president of the distillery. So within 20 years, he's running the distillery.
He's basically going from the bottom to the top.
He went from the bottom to the top. And so they made, they say it was the oldest non-stop. They made medicinal whiskey here in Prohibition.
So he actually was the director, or what was his actual title?
President. Yeah.
So he was the president of the distillery even during Prohibition, and Buffalo Trace was actually one of the very few that was
Stayed on.
legally allowed to.
There's only 6 of them stayed on. They were one of the ones. So, after Prohibition, Shinley, it was a big conglomerate. They bought a lot of distilleries. They bought it, but Bacon, Albert Bacon Bland stayed on, and he stayed and worked there, the rest of his life. So it stayed with Shinley until 1989. So they had a long time.
Yeah.
And that's when a company out of New Orleans called Sazerac purchased it.
It's odd how that ties back in with originally where Taylor had lived in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
With his famous president uncle
Yep.
in
Yep.
New Orleans. So
Yep. And a New Orleans company buys it, Sazerac. And actually, it went to a lot of names during the time. It's called Stagg Distillery, it's called Blanton Distillery, it's called H&H.
Ancient Age, I remember that.
A lot of people know it's Ancient Age.
Yeah, I remember that.
A lot of names, and at 1999, Sazerac calls it Buffalo Trace. And like I said, we talked about if you ever drive into Frankfurt and you're driving down into Frankfurt, it's in a bowl. Pretty much the only way you get to it is go down.
Down, yeah.
Yeah.
Frankfurt as a whole is sort of in a ball.
And those roads, those main roads coming into Frankfurt, are all Buffalo Trace.
Pardon our timer.
Yes. It's loud. So all those roads that lead into Frankfurt are buffalo traces. We're formed by buffalo traces. So
They're, when you say Buffalo Traces, he doesn't mean the company of Buffalo Traces. You're talking
Actual
about
buffalo.
Actual herds of buffalo.
the path that they took
Yeah.
when they migrated. Sure was. So, I mean, that's buffalo trace, and it's been, since then, I mean, they produce a lot of products that you all know, if you can find them. They're hard to find. I mean, even buffalo trace sometimes, you know, it's hard to find. They make great products, so if you can find them, great products. So, that's the kind of the end of Buffalo Trace, and we'll tell you that distillery they evolved before that Buffalo Trace. We'll talk about it next.
That's next.